Some concepts, imagery, and language used in this Kult Divinity Lost campaign may be considered deeply offensive to some viewers. Maybe even a lot of viewers. If you are one such viewer, we're sorry. We love you, but you may want to f*** off for this one. Your discretion is advised.
Get all this figured out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just having a good
CJ,
old
you look like a little kid hiding under a blanket, telling spooky ghost stories with your friends.
Aw, that means I got friends.
Yeah.
I mean, of course.
We would have just gone without you if we weren't friends.
He's like,
Oh.
well, you almost fucking did, and so tell me
Byron
about
is
the
friend.
Hey, so
And you had a backup ready.
tell me about the Curse of Strahd, Mike.
Yeah, I can't tell too much because a handful of these guys are actually in my campaign. But
Yes, tell us more.
yeah, there is a it's a D&D campaign that's very different than your normal like adventure in caves and killing dragons and getting loot. It's a like a romantic horror, which has been a whole lot of fun. And the game takes place in a land called Barovia, which is like an enchanted land that you can't actually get to. Like on a map, you have to sort of like will yourself into existence there, and then you can't leave, even in death. Like you are stuck there. And so my group has found themselves in Barovia, working through one of the first dungeons, and fun, very RP heavy, very classic horror, which has been a lot of fun.
Amazing. We are live, the real kind of live. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mike Estes as Frank Quinn. We have Randall Michelson, who is played by your very own Steve Nedley, and his badass dreadlocks. Let's pause there. How did you sprout those? I know you had long hair. How does that go? What do they put in there? Glue? How does it work?
It was really hard to get soap during COVID, so I just didn't.
Yeah. Good. So we're playing remotely, and that works. You know, that's a good thing. This isn't Smellocast either, so you won't.
Oh my gosh.
It's a musk. It's musk. All right.
Musk. Awesome. So glad you're here, and you're playing your dysfunctional Randall, and then of course our very own CJ, who was almost Byron, Constantine Bianchi, with the crazy black scary background, and I'm so. It's kind of spooky. So I had this all figured out with a cadence that was before I drank a bottle of wine. So okay, we'll just start there. Going around the horn. Are you guys glad to be back?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you realize that this is kind of coming to a head, right? Like it's getting there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I don't have any of the answers that like Frank doesn't either, right? Like he and I are both going through this journey together. And so there is something very serious that happened to his family. There is a almost supernatural obsession with this idol type doll. There are friends and companions that I've seen kidnapped and murdered. And Frank is also finally getting to see what's behind the curtain for the first time. And so both as Frank and as an outside observer, I'm really excited to see how that all plays out. Steve, you just went into high def. That's cool.
Ooh. That's a good transition. So Randall, did your audio go away? Are you still with us?
I muted myself.
Oh, don't do that. So, hey, are you ready to get back into the skin of that degenerate bastard that you play? Or how are you feeling about being back? I know we had some therapy sessions and some vitamin C or D or whatever.
Yeah. I'm excited to reprise my role. I'm rather uncomfortable because I haven't looked at the last recording, so I don't remember what the hell we were doing. But I'm sure that I'll just get into the swing of it and naturally role play a junky accidental medium. So,
I mean, speaking of which, you got to make a roll, right? Like you've got to roll for your sixth sense, and let's see where that leads. You don't need to do that right this second, but CJ.
Remind me of the numbers for that? I'm sorry. Is it just
Nope.
like 1d10?
I can tell you what page it's on. Yeah, it's 2d10. I don't know. How long has it
And
been? It's
is
been
it-
like 6 months.
Is it a GM roll?
I don't know. I don't think so. Was that a advantage, wasn't it? 6 cents?
Here, I'll find it. I'm sorry.
That's
ahead.
116. Page 116, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an adult.
Yeah. So CJ, it's been a while. COVID, nobody got it. It's good. You happy to be back and creepy as ever. It's like a toy. Now he's in the vacuum of space. He's wearing a black shirt, so he's just his fucking weird floating head on the Zoom. You can't see it because your nameplate on the stream. But are you excited, man?
Yeah, this will be good. Yeah,
Gonna bring it home.
yeah. Don't get to play many games these days, so this is fun
Yeah.
to finish one off.
Yeah, you get to roll plus soul, Randall. You want to do that? So 6 Sense is basically that Randall has an intuition about things, and he gets to make a roll at the beginning of each session, and then he gets a result that he can carry into the session.
Be great if your intuition could tell us about dogs that might come running down the hallway and attack us. That'd be cool.
Did
Yeah,
you
that would
roll?
help.
So
Man,
that's
I did it.
14. I see that. Good. Okay. So a result of 14, you get to choose up to 2 options, and you can use them at any time during this session. So your options are: you get to act first in a threatening situation. Okay. And then sense whether or not, or sense whether someone wishes good or ill toward you. Discover or sense a clue or lead when you're off track.
Absolutely the first and the last one. I know everything's going to wish ill today. This is not going to be
Yeah,
not a
that's
good day.
it's probably not a concern, right? Okay.
Yeah,
that
I'm a
was
short
that
game.
hallway. I'm pretty
Game's
sure
over
I
at 10:30.
Yes. Okay. So, are you guys ready to start the creepy ass music?
Let's do it.
So, this song, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of a long song. It's 10 hours, 28 minutes, and 27 seconds long. It's called, and I love this, Slow Dying in an Alien Hive. 10 hours of accursed, non-Euclidean, and withered dark ambient vengeance.
Wow, okay.
I created a channel on Pandora with that genre, and there's only this one song on it, but it's 10 hours long, so that works out. Here we go.
And
Start the spooky.
This is my favorite song by this band.
It's the only song they were ever able to do.
Because it's
They're
10
still
fucking
doing it.
hours long.
It's-
Okay.
The concerts are awful.
It's like there's a band called Sun. But, okay. Asphalt. A testament to the man-thing's obsession with permanence and simultaneously of their failure to achieve it. The weight of their own turmoil and their own bloat strains it and cracks it. And in all of those cracks fall all manner of things that should be forgotten. A chipped tooth, a matchstick, a spent shell casing still rich with the sweet, sweet scent of sulfur. The crack's asphalt accumulates the stench of their wet footsteps as they pressed onward, away from that shell casing. The moisture, though, is not from this place, around this box they call a van. The hunter knows that scent too. It's the scent of home. What fools they must be to bring themselves so close. But for a moment, the hunter knew pity. Welcome to the last episode of Beneath These Streets. Last time, you'll remember, after the van filling up with water that was coming from some tear between the real and the unreal, whichever way you look at it, you made your way to the front of the building where You managed to blast in the front door with a MAC-10, a spray of bullets. There were these entities inside, these zombie-like, mannequin-esque corpses, shells of people you didn't know. You went in guns a-blazing. The priest bravely stepped through after Frank lacerated his back and is just bleeding all down his leg, saying, "Oh, no, I'll be fine. Keep going. Always keep going." The priest stepped up to this demonic creature and screamed in its face, and it laughed at him, and it gave him back water. Tenfold the gift. So then the priest applied God's will to its forehead and blew brains all over the lobby of this place, this Pierson Chemicals. It fell. There was a little bit of a complication on a die roll. And so, as you were looking around and seeing these weird shifts in time in this lobby, strange things, out of place things for a 1980s kind of joint, it sat back up, and its tongue, engorged and worm-like, tried to snare Randall and tear his arm off. He dropped his MAC-10, thankfully, because he'd already sprayed the room once. Frank stepped over it and shot it right in the chest, which ironically was the important part of the worm, because the husk didn't matter. Frank has 4 bullets. Constantine reloads. You make your ways back to the front door and grab the keys, because keys were important. Don't forget, keys at the time were very important. You snuck down this side door that leads out into the big part, the business end, the really interesting part of this chemical plant. This Pierson chemical plant. And out of the blue, there's this maybe guard dog, maybe it's the owner's, you don't know, but hey, it's been dead a while. It shouldn't be moving, but it is, and it's moving fast. And Randall just slams into it and mashes it in like a mushroom, like a dead, rotten, fucking slimy mushroom into the wall, saving, I think, Frank's crotch, or at least part of it. The dog ran off. Seconds ago, the dog ran off and looked over its shoulder at you as if it's daring you to follow it. That's where we are. Frank, what do? You were in front. You're recovering. You're back against these file cabinets, having kind of fallen against it. Randall, you're recovering, standing up. What do? What's going on in your head, Frank?
Well, Frank's going to keep his firearm in hand. Moving forward, I believe his firearm was tucked behind his back, which is why he couldn't pull it out and shoot. So he's not going to make that mistake again. But we made it this far. We just got to push a little bit further, and we'll have answers. We'll have answers to what happened to my family. We'll have answers to what the fuck is going on, what happened to A-Bomb. We got to keep pushing forward.
Randall, you just hit the file cabinet. You're kind of rolling off from that, right? This dog, you sit up in time to see the dog look over its shoulder at you. You know you saved your friend's crotch, maybe even his life, because who knows? The priest is standing there also. You're all in it together. What do? You kind of roll off of that file cabinet impact.
I try to shake off the impact and, work my shoulder back into place, whatever, Nothing actually bad happened, but God, what an impact. I'd like to reach down and grab my firearm. I want it back.
You reach down and there's like this slow-mo scene where you pick up that MAC-10 and give it a glance, Chuck Norris style. What about you, Constantine? You didn't hit the ground, if I'm remembering the image right. You were kind of right there. You see all of this nonsense. Your assessment of that dog is the same of everyone else's. It's not natural. It looked like it might have died of starvation, and then, maybe it's zombie. Those 80s zombie movies, right? What do?
I would stay silent and most likely take a swig of my holy water to ease my nerves. I just reloaded my weapon, so I'll probably fall in line behind Frank.
So Constantine, as you're there, you take that sip and you feel that sting. And there's just this quick second where you hear this sort of distant scene that you've replayed in your head 100 times. Don't drink! You always wind up hitting someone when you drink. You grit your teeth. Remember your grandmother, how she talked to your dad. Then there's that thing that happened with your dad. So there's this hallway. You got the deep shag 80s carpet left over from the 70s. It smells like cigarette smoke and foot traffic. And at the end, there's this kind of good-sized industrial door. What do you guys do?
Frank he's hurt. His senses are still sharp though. The adrenaline is keeping his senses sharp, and so he's gonna lean in close and listen to see if maybe he can hear if the dog is behind the door or if there's any other disgusting creatures behind there.
So you head toward the door. So remember, and I apologize, but there was a bit of a long hallway, and along the way, think of this as the office for the chemical plant. So there's doors along the way. In fact, on the outer wall, there are 3 good-sized offices, probably just, decent view of outside, wood paneling along the way. The third door is cracked open. The rest are closed.
So, right, rather than actually listen to the door, then I make my way down the hall, okay. listening for any movement that might be in the closed doors, but I stop before the open door, and that's the one I'm really focusing on and listening to.
Yeah. Okay, so you're kind of moving down the hallway. Randall, as you guys, obviously you see Frank kind of buckle up and go. Do you follow him? Do you let him get to the end of the hallway? How does that play out?
I'll try to follow pretty close to him. I'm still sort of limping from this last attempt to be physical, so I'm just going to try to keep up, man. Frank's got point. I trust him, mostly. So, yeah, I figure he owes me one. Frank, man, hold up. And I'm just going to noisily go down the hallway, sort of oblivious to the fact that I'm supposed to be really, really quiet.
Yeah. So at hearing his little shuffle, I do turn around and I give him a finger, and try to quietly mime, like, listen, we've really got to be quiet.
All right, man. All right. Shh. Sorry.
Constantine, what are you doing? So you see this kind of exchange. You've got your giant revolver.
Now I'll follow up and I'll offer an arm to him to see if he needs any help, since he seems so badly injured.
Feel the priest's hand on your shoulder, trying to offer you physical help.
Not right now, man. No time for hanky-panky. Frank said shush. And I'm just going to keep walking. I don't need no priest help. I'm good.
I obviously blush because he's clearly too old for me.
Holy shit.
Nice. Moving on. I'm gonna not stop smiling for the rest of the episode because that was perfect. So Frank, you're moving up. Randall kind of scrambles up behind you. Constantine behind him. You can see the barrel of his gun on the other side of Randall, knowing that he's there, ready to be priestly, as it were. First couple of doors are obviously that thin 80s wood, brass handle or whatever, along wood paneling, hunter green carpet, stained, mildewy and weird, but there's no sound. But as you get closer to the third door, you hear a typewriter, one of those new mechanical jobs, right? Cha-king, 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 with a motor. Just doing this weird loop. It gets louder as you approach. What do you do?
So it sounds rhythmic, right? Like they're typing sort of the same thing and not like chaotic as though they were writing out a story.
Yes, not chaotic, rhythmic, and not just a key stuck. It's kind of like I can continue to do that if you'd like. That would be super sweet, I'm sure.
No, I can loop that in my head. I think I've got it.
Nice.
So I'm approaching the door. Is the door on my left or my right?
Left.
It's on my left, okay. I've obviously got my firearm in my right. And I start to approach with my shoulder between me and the door. and I'm listening, leading with my left ear, limping a little bit because of the pain in my back. As I get closer, I'm scanning the gap in the door for any signs of life. I can hear something, but do I see a shadow cast by a dim light, or do I see any sort of movement in my vision through the crack of the door?
Give me an observe the situation roll as you approach that way. What'd you roll? Tell
18.
it. Gee, wow, God, this is like you're playing in the other campaign where everybody kills everybody. So you get to answer 2 of your questions. So what was your first question?
So as I approach the door, I'm watching the gap in the door, particularly the sort of the hunter green carpet on the door, and I'm looking to see if there's enough illumination coming from the room that I might catch the movement of a shadow or something like that.
Yeah. So your first observation here, right, is there's definitely a shadow as you approach. Do you react to that and stop, or do you continue moving forward?
Yeah, if I saw a shadow and I've heard it, so now I'm convinced that there's something in there and it's not a radio contraption of some sort, or it's not some sort of a mechanical automation thing. I put my hand up once again for Steve.
Steve just
knew it was going to happen. They just switched.
Who switched? Yeah, I know. I see they switched.
Steve and CJ.
Thanks, CJ. You dick.
No, it was Steve. Steve dropped out video and then came back.
Hey, Constantine, try dropping and coming back, and see if that makes it. It might make it worse. It might make it worse, but fucking Zoom. Okay. Yeah, now he's gonna come back.
Sorry.
There we go. We're much better. So
that worked out. Okay.
I mean, Mike, tell us what happens. Like, fuck. Okay, where were you? You see the shadow.
So I put up a hand, the hand with my revolver, not at the team, but sort of up. And I look back and I finger, and then I point to the doorway, hoping that these guys can piece together enough of what I'm trying to show them.
So Randall, you see these gestures. How do you react to that?
I open my eyes pretty wide, and I'm assuming I get the signal. I don't move past him, but I sort of crane my head slowly so I can try to peek around his shoulder there. He's leaning really far.
So Frank's leaning in, and you're leaning with him like
just
a second.
A hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see what would appear to be a shoulder of a seated figure. Kind of decent task chair, leather, decent metal. Her dress might have been blue and white stripes. It's kind of dingy and weird now. And she's got the lace mantle thing. It's kind of nice. And she's tap, 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 in this weird rhythmic movement. Frank, what do? You see this. It's obviously a bit disturbing. Oops.
Yeah, so I can actually see this. Okay, because I have a second question, and I was going to ask if I.
What is your question based on what you see?
Yeah. Is the room well lit at all, or is it like sort of like, am I seeing this in like half cast shadows?
Remember that's sort of the outside wall as you come in, the left side. So there's a bit of sunlight it's illuminated. It's very tinted, that 80s tint, but it's definitely illuminated. You can see this woman sitting at this desk. The desk itself, around kind of her arms, the papers there are really soiled, and from here you can't tell specifically what's going on.
Okay. Does she look alive?
She looks like she could use a
color
Twix.
In her. Yeah, again?
I said she looks like she could use a Twix.
I mean, she's not putting in overtime, man. Shoot her.
Her neck is drawn, and the first thing you kind of look, and you're trying to make it out past that overly hairsprayed mane of hair that just doesn't seem to have changed because of that. Maybe it's all that Aquanet or whatever. But her neck, it's like, it's gray, dark gray, tight and dry. Ding.
There's another one in there. I say it just above a whisper, just enough for the two of them to hear me at once, so I don't have to repeat myself. I'm still standing outside the door, gun drawn. But Frank's pretty freaked out.
This is the door at the end of the hallway?
No.
Or
so there's along the way there were 3 doors on the left, and there's a door that terminates the hallway. The big metal one is at the very end of the hallway, leading into the larger factory area, probably. Right? So this is the last door on the left before that.
And there's a door.
Let's just keep going.
Yeah, I reach out and I go to pull the door shut.
Frank, you see him reach over and grab the door and kind of start to, you're like, oh, you're with your gun.
Yeah.
You're like, it's going to blow the hell out of everything.
I don't go to stop him at all. And I think if the door shuts with a click, after a pause, Frank lets out a sigh of relief and continues his way down the hall.
So the trouble is, that's never the way it goes in police work, they used to say, right? Randall reaches out and you pull the door, and just as you start to pull it, it's literally like someone rips it out of your hand, almost kind of spraining your fingers in the process. Just and the door opens and there's this similarly desiccated man standing there as if he's in the middle of having a conversation with someone who's ignoring him while she's typing. The door flies open and you're presented with this. What do you do, Randall?
I yell, "Oh fuck," and I roll backwards and I try to get behind Frank because I wasn't ready for that.
You scramble backward. Constantine, what do? You see this whole, you can kind of see generally what's going on. You've got ever prepared Frank with his firearm and then freaking out Randall. What do you do?
Oh my. See, I'm across. I will hold up my cross to the before me and say, "The power of Christ compels you. Be gone, fiend."
You step up with the idea of we'll call this persuade another. Babe. We're going to influence another. So that's going to be kind of difficult. You're going to have a bit of a penalty at like ±5. But let's see with your will. So you roll plus charisma, and I'll allow you to add your will to it as well, because we're rules benders and stuff.
Storytellers.
We are.
2.
Moderately assisted by dice. It's coming. So the priest steps around you, Frank, and is suddenly screaming a prayer you've heard so many times, right? As he goes into these sort of incantations, holding up his cross and stepping in. Both of these things stop, and their heads snap to focus on Frank. The one at the typewriter, head looking backwards. The one there staring at you awkwardly, head snaps kind of at an odd angle, and they both in simultaneous order say, "How's my driving, Frank?" And then fall. With the light of the Lord, there's an image, almost a shadowy, weird, diffuse light shadowing the priest, holding his cross up, and these two things fall, and you almost feel that. The trouble is, Frank, there was a sticker on the front of that truck. That truck that hit the guy that you're pretty sure sawed your wife up into pieces and killed the rest of your family as well. Said, "How's my driving?" There was a phone number there. What do you do?
Frank is he's just absolutely at a state of shock. So in less than 5 seconds, he's tight and he's coiled and he's tense. Randall reaches behind me to close the door, and the door flies open, pulling Randall forward, which shoves me just a little bit, and then ripping himself back, and the priest out of nowhere, "Be gone, demon!" And then he witnesses these two people just do this completely unholy thing and call me out by name. I think Frank is he's just stuck in the moment, just taking in the moment, and I don't even know that he knows what to be thinking right now.
Constantine, you feel the power surge through you. And as you're holding your cross there, you're holding it at this weird angle. And the way your hand cuts off the bottom makes it look like it's upside down. And you hear, tell them what we want them to think, priest. Kissing sound in your ear. You feel it on the hairs. There's the door. There's the typewriter that was being typed upon clearly. There's a piece of paper that's kind of at a weird angle, so probably those words were just hitting the roller thing. What do you do?
Push in and go see what they were typing.
So the sheet that is stuck on the typewriter, so the roller of the typewriter is just, kind of covered in this overlapping strokes. And they're never quite the same based on the turn, right? So this thing was just typing away the same line probably over and over. This piece of paper looks like it came out of the typewriter quite a long time ago. It's got a phone number on it. Over and over and over again. And it's kind of hanging at an angle outside of the typewriter. You call out the number? What do? You just...
I pick it up and I look to Frank and Randall. I'm like, and I read off the number. Does this have any meaning?
Yeah, Frank. It definitely does. It matches what they were saying. If you called it, you could complain about that guy's driving.
Yeah, in half a memory that I haven't thought about in 2 years, it all just sort of comes flooding back, and I can very clearly remember that red and white bumper sticker. How is my driving? 1-800-555-1234.
And he smiled at you, and just that's the thing that you saw, and then poof, and it just gore. And that sneer, that smile.
Figures this place would dredge up that memory.
Do you press on? What do you do? You're in this room. It's now silent, except for your banter or whatever.
Frank sort of drops his gun arm to his side in just like this wave of remembrance and trying to understand and sort of like this uncomfortable comprehension. And I take the paper from you to read it to make sure that the numbers that you read out were actually what I was thinking. And after a moment verifying it, I fold it up and pull out a completely stuffed paper notebook. And I wedge it between the pages, and stick it back in my coat pocket.
Give me an observe the situation, Constantine.
I ain't observed the shit.
Do you? Well, you yeah, you don't. You glance down. There's a notebook with some drawings and stuff in there, and he folds it up and sticks it in there.
I like notes too. They're great for confession.
So you take your notebook and put it away. What do you do, Frank?
After a moment of staring at these bodies, and convincing myself that this room is no longer a threat. Let's keep going.
You step away from the door, step up to the main door. It's one of those big white jobs, the big metal ones with the window with the sort of lattice work of little wire to help protect that sort of 3-tier design, or however many panes of glass are there. There's a hard hat area, protective equipment required sticker, stuck kind of crooked too. Randall, that really fucks with you a little bit. Door's there. There's a window in it. The trouble is, as you approach this door, you hear this kind of like some giant churning of liquid, and you look at the door. Who's in front? Frank, give me an observe the situation, please. Nice.
He's a little stirred from what just happened.
Nonetheless, so as you kind of glance, and the natural tendency is for your eyes to jump to the nature of the sound, or the origin of the sound, I should say. You're looking through this weird, almost maze work of chemical sort of, pipes and giant sort of, wheels to, valves and things like that. There's this bizarre green tint coming from in there, and it seems to shift with the rhythm of this sound, which even here you can feel it in your chest a little. You naturally kind of lean on the door handle, and you find it to be unlocked.
I give a quick glance through the little hospital window, and I'm looking for any bodies, any people. Is there anybody around this vat, or is that fucking dog in here? What do I see?
So as you look out, just kind of surveying the situation in general, the various machinery and the pathways for whatever bizarre chemicals they may be mixing here, they make that hard to assess, but you do see a shadow that kind of moves a little bit. Maybe two of them. You're not 100% certain, but it's in the glow, close to it.
There might be more in here. Stay close. Door is unlocked. After another 2.5 pause. You guys ready?
I would like to try to reach past him to pull this door shut too.
You push it. He goes to open it, and you push it back shut.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, Frank, we still got $17. There's a Denny's down the road.
Like, there are 3 doors, 3 of us. I don't like these odds. Can we just continue on to the giant blinking objective thing at the end of this hallway, or do we really got to fight everything ever and potentially die again and pee myself in public?
He's losing it. It's the same thing.
Sorry, I thought that was the door we were at.
It is the same door.
Yeah, it is.
But
okay.
not
Yeah,
to
that's where we're
Randall.
at. We're at the end of the hall, at the big door.
Oh, holy hell. Okay.
You just had a
was like-
flashback, man.
Yeah, sorry, that happens. That's method acting. It's terrible.
So no, I am thinking Randall actually had a flashback. So yeah, it is the door at the end of the hallway. You're looking out into a larger, the chemical plant portion of this building, right? The roll-up doors would be off to the left. You'll remember from the outside. You press in.
I open the door as quietly as I can. I know these giant, heavy metal doors can close with a loud bang. And so remembering that, I stick a hand behind me to try to close it as slowly and quietly as possible after these two guys rush in a little bit.
Okay. So you guys move in. You kind of let the door close very quietly. Now this sort of is substantially louder. That was a heavy metal door. You kind of glance out, and you can see this light changes ever so slightly. There's a lot of metal piping around you. There's a lot of apparatus, chemicals sort of stuff. Steam vents. Chains. It's going to be chains around. Just like a warrant video or something. Like fire.
Yeah, there's chains and smoke for no reason. There's got to be smoke.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
I love it.
Mist.
Fuck yeah. Which is catching the luminance from this glowing whatever it is, center of the room.
Yeah. I've seen Halloween Town. I know how that stuff
Yeah.
goes.
Remember, everyone, we are in the 80s, so if those of you guys who are watching this, we're doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be cheesy.
Yeah, so
Synthesizer music kicks in.
the crazy thing about this floor is it's super clean here closest to the building, where you would think a lot of people kind of come and go, but then out among the apparatus and the sort of machinery. It gets real dingy and gross, and then it gets to a point where it looks like maybe something was spilled. You know what that's about. What do you do? You're there at the door. This object is probably this massive vat which drains something right from up in this pipework. On the other side of that is where this glow is.
What does it smell like in here? So we're in this big warehouse, giant vat of chemicals. It's dark. It's dingy. Are we hit with the putrid smell of like old dried blood, or do we smell cleaning chemicals, or what does this smell like?
So you do smell the remnants of some sort of maybe ammonia-rich chemical. You get that harsh bite. The thing that's really disturbing, though, is there's this underlying smell of decay. Like there's dead bodies everywhere. Cue the song. Sponsorship. Yeah, it stinks in here.
Yeah, I quietly start making my way towards the vat.
Okay. So you're moving toward the vat. So I'm guessing it's Frank, Constantine bringing up the rear, Randall in the middle.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm stuffing in the Oreo.
Randall, I'm going to give you, you're in the middle, a little bit less stress, right? So, well, I mean, relatively speaking. Give me an observe the situation roll.
Third situation. I'm going to click buttons. Observe. Oh, it's over there. No modifier? No? Yeah.
No. So you're moving along, Randall, and you see this sort of shift in the shadows beneath the garage door. The first one. There are 3 in a row, right? Off to the left. I think it was 3. Might have been 4. It's as if something with big feet is moving there. Kind of, you guys are moving directly toward this vat, this light, whatever's going on, this thing, and there's big movement. Somebody riding an elephant with 2 legs? Like, what's going on? It's moving slow, almost pacing itself with you. What do you do, Randall, reacting to this?
I'm going to reach out and I'm going to slap Frank on his back, and I'm going to point at the gap in the door to show the thing shuffling by. And just say, watch out, watch out, watch out.
So you point, Priest, you kind of look over as well to see what's going on, and right about then, something sizable, something like 3, 5, 10 refrigerator Perrys just mashes in this garage door. Just the hunter has arrived. You hear that? It's like, what is this? This hunter. The door is crumpling in. Frank, what do? You see this, you have this choice. There's something, and it's not fucking human, smashing into the door. Indian elephant, maybe. That's what you get out of this, not being a supernatural guy. And then there's the glow. What do you do?
Yeah, there's a fight or flight response that has to happen right now, and Frank doesn't run. And so I would point my revolver at the center of the mass of this thing and fire the trigger.
Okay. So you're going to engage in combat. Give me that roll. So you see Frank. He already had his gun out, and he does a sort of cop, quick turn, aim, and shoot, but completely. So I'm going to say you miss right there. I have options there. There's all kinds of options with a 9 or less. But yeah, you put the bullet through the garage door. What that does, you don't know. There's not a whole lot of reaction there. But there is a sudden doosh, and this garage door caves in a slight bit further. And now you're suddenly able to make out that these aren't elephant legs. They're kind of more bipedal. And there's scale or some shit and snot just dripping profusely down from it. You guys are in trouble. The fight or flight thing. Make a keep it together roll, all 3 of you.
That one hot roll. The rest are not doing so well.
So Mike, what'd you roll? 12? 11.
11.
Yeah. So the effort to resist the fear of this situation, the disbelief in this creature that you're seeing, whatever the hell it is, it's going to instill a condition. So you get to choose one, and that's on you, and you're going to lose a stability. So become angry, react with despair. I'm not going to say sad. Become fear-ridden, guilt-ridden, or obsessed with whatever caused the condition, which could have downstream results. How do you?
So Frank would either. He's already a naturally angry guy. He would either get frustrated that, of course, it's another fucking thing. It's another obstacle in his way. And he's tired and he's battered and he's bruised. And here we go again. Or the logical side of him would be terrified because here yet again is another exposure to something supernatural. And at this point, how does he combat this thing?
Which way do you go?
I think I like angry more. I think that he's just fed up, and it's another thing in his way yet again, in between him and what he perceives to be the answers to his questions.
So the answer to his question, you think, is where the glow is, right? So you just grit your teeth, and so you influence the roles of the others. I can explain their lack of fear with that, because the priest is literally just you priest are pretty well concerned that the other side is coming, and you're triumphing over it with your roll of 13 or 16, I'm sorry, and then Steve, your roll of 13. So you're inspired by somehow by the priest and by Frank. So you press forward. There's a third bash, probably the fourth one. That garage door is coming in. The adrenaline is literally about to make you puke. How do you approach that thing? Do you go cautiously or no?
I'm still going to stay behind Frank, man. He's the only one of us who knows how to use a weapon. And this thing's big, but, you know, I'm amped up for a fight. I'm already upset. My high's dropping. I want, I'm kind of seeking some adrenaline right now. I want more.
Yeah, I picture you kind of trailing your...
And we go forward.
Picture you sort of trailing your MAC-10 just in case that thing comes all the way through. Frank, are you just barreling forward, or are you slowing it up? What are you doing?
So help me paint this. As far as I understand, we come through the door, we see the chemical vat, and we're walking towards the vat. There's this garage door to the side of us, right?
Yeah, to your left. So think about you're heading toward the vat directly, and there's all the apparatus and the glows inside of that. To the left, there are 3 garage doors, which are used for loading. And if you look, kind of closer and thought about it, there's, big drums there with logos on them and things like that,
sure,
like there were in every chemical factory in the 80s.
And this thing is pounding on the door.
This thing is coming through yes.
So I think I would get frustrated, right? This is yet another thing. I shot at it. I'm fucking over it. So I would say, let's go. And I would just take off down towards the chemicals.
You take off. So you run, and very quickly, it just feels like it takes forever to get there. Like the distance between you and it is just hundreds of yards, right? It's not that far. You run past a forklift or two and a couple of empty barrels, kind of stacked up and ready to be filled. The thing that gets you, though, is the scene that you run up on. The shadows, who have only just noticed the banging at the garage door, right, have turned and looked away from the vat. And they're holding there this cute teenager. She's dressed kind of like Madonna, because that's what girls did then. And she's back on her knees with her head like this. And these men have got this metal thing sort of down her throat to the point where her throat's swollen, and you can see something causing her chest and her abdomen to undulate. Randall, they're filling her up with something. But they're stopped and they're looking over their shoulder. What do you do? How do you react to this in this moment?
I'm gonna go with violence. This is way too similar to what I was familiar with. I'm gonna attempt to just spray across. Hopefully not damaging a kid, but this is rage-inducing. We had a deal. Matter of fact, I just yell, "We had a deal," and just
make that roll.
I probably should have looked at my stats again before to decide to do this.
I love the tension. I might have to edit around. That was really funny, but I might have to edit around it to keep the tension there. Damn.
Oh, I'm dead.
So, you scream, "We had a deal!" And you just spray bullets kind of over the heads of these people. They duck and scatter. Think of this in slow-mo. The glass of this giant cylindrical WTF contraption bursts, and this green liquid just like a lake across the scene, illuminated still, not because of lights, but because it kind of glows. The girl is cut to ribbons by the falling glass. You see it slice chunks from her face. She falls backwards, and a huge shard just directly through her chest.
Oh, fuck.
Frank. Randall loses it.
I shouldn't have a gun. I probably shouldn't have one.
Not a Mac 10. What do you do, Frank?
So we're running up, things banging on the walls. We're trying to get past it. We run past it. It's behind us, doing whatever the fuck big things do behind us. And we see the chemicals, and as we get closer, we see this scene. Fucking lunatic drug addict over here, just
right over your head.
Yeah. Breaks the glass. Wave of chemicals comes at us. The people that are there run off into who the fuck knows where. I can't go forward. Frank can't keep running into wave of said chemicals. He's got to stop. And he does one of these numbers where he like hits the ground and is trying to turn around and run as quickly as he can behind him, because he forgot, in the chaos that is this scene, there's a big fucking monster trying to get us from behind. So I would at that point I would turn around and try to get away from the chemicals until I feel like I'm a safe distance from being exposed to whatever the hell that was.
Give me an act under pressure roll. So that's your roll plus coolness. And while you're doing that, so Constantine, same scene, you're there behind, obviously not with your cross up in the air this time, but you see this wave of chemicals, and you just see raw emotion come out of Randall, and he sprays this Mac 10, 50 bullets or something. What do you do?
I'd be conflicted because I would not have wanted to run from the beast.
So you can, if you are back there, I'm okay, because I didn't ask you. I should have, but if you wanted to remain back, you could. Absolutely.
No, if they ran, I probably would have followed them, but just probably behind and conflicted, because in my mind, I've been holier than thou in crushing these demons. So what's one more? No, even if it is, 5 times bigger than a man. So I'd probably just be in a daze watching the scene before me and wondering, why'd we go this way and kill some child just now?
So you are obviously aware of what's going on, but you're also aware when the daylight breaks through, and this thing which seems to kind of zip in and out of visible spectrums of light or reality or whatever one might call it, coming between heaven and hell maybe in your mind, stomps through the door 4 times the sort of size, overall girth of a bodybuilder, stomping your direction, just looking really unsavory. You, Frank, with your roll, you jump and grab onto some of this sort of piping and swing and barely escape having your shins washed over by this chemical. Sadly, Randall, you do not. You are there, and you're just as this stuff just washes you and hits you across your stomach. There's a sizzling pain. It's not quite like you're dissolving like an alien or something like that, but it's just this awful pain. And then you look down, and all the liquid that's on you is just sort of coalescing into these little globs and starting to kind of dig its way into your flesh. Roll to keep it together, please. More. Jesus fucking Christ.
Can I get new dice?
Yeah. You want to send Roll20 an email and report a bug.
Yeah. I got 7 again. When it's important. I roll like a 19 for shoot little girl in the head, but I roll a 7.
So you lose yourself in this reaction, the anxiety of the situation, the pain that you feel of not having your drugs, and then the sheer horror that you're seeing here. You become completely panicked and unstable and really just can't move. You're just watching as this liquid makes its way in. Frank, what do? You're hanging there. You see Steve. You see Randall illuminated by this weird glowing light. So he's real shadowy and just massaging himself. Like, what's going on?
What is the status of the chemicals, right? So it kind of like waves over and then it just kind of leaves like a thin film, like a wet, slick concrete floor, or is it still like ankle deep, or what are we looking at?
No, it does spread out. The room's big. That's a great question. The floor is slick, the room's big. You know, whatever grading is in place to get the stuff away from the main bad thing. So yeah, you're okay.
Okay.
It's there, so you're gonna step in it and get it on your shoes, but not on your skin.
Perfect. Yep. So Frank drops down with a heavy and tired thud onto the metal grate, and then turns quickly to ask Randall if he's okay. You all right?
Okay, no, man. The shit's on me about killed the girl. This is complete horse shit. I want out of here. I don't know what. Oh, fuck me, man. It's got my legs. I don't know what this is.
It's starting to feel really, really nice, though, Randall. Now that the scary part's over, it feels almost organic. It's deep. It's like ecstasy deep. You start to really. You don't want to touch Frank or anything strange, but
you don't need to stop this, though. This feels like home, Frank.
His pupils.
So you're okay?
Oh yeah. You should probably come try some of this.
And Frank knows well enough to know when you've sort of checked out.
Oh yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, and it stops being a question. You're okay? Yeah, you're okay. And I immediately turn to see if I can find movement from the 1, 2, 3 shadows that I saw running away from the vat.
So you look, and very suddenly 2, 3 manageable numbers become faces looking out from these weird tangles of piping. Things that at first might have been valves are faces writhing, almost like from, think about Aliens, that scene in the ducts overhead. They're moving in and they're so slow. They may have once been people, you're not sure, but they're kind of leathery and they're covered in this bizarre kind of patchy hair just moving in. Their jaws are slack. They look very hungry. You hear, "Stop!" And then they stop and look back toward the door. Instinctively, you look that direction and you see this thing that is still standing there panting, its jaws dripping with 80s clear snot effects. That's a thing, look it up. There's a man in a wheelchair, escorted by 2 very crooked men. They walk strangely and their backs aren't right. He's wheeling his way toward you, 80s style. Bad guy with a white hat style. What do, Frank? You turn and you see this. He's cruising, the lights shining on him.
This guy doesn't look like demon-esque, though, right? He looks more like a normal, crooked, but does he look like a human?
The man in the wheelchair is wearing a nice suit. And he's hurt, but it seems his legs, he has a little afghan over his knees. It's like a nice plaid.
As they
People
do.
that are pushing him along are crooked, and they walk with bent angles that back injury, maybe never resolved kind of angles. And they push him along. No words. Their faces are kind of drawn and leathery, like maybe they tried to drip off of their skull when exposed to the wrong chemical.
So Frank is seeing this. For God's sakes, it looks like the first actual human in a world of monsters. It's been hours since I've seen another human being that. So he stands up as tall as he can, trying to channel that 5 years ago Frank, Detective Frank Quinn. And with as much authority as he can muster in his battered and bruised and broken body, he says, "What's going on here? What is this?"
Randall, you see Frank kind of step up and say that. How do you react to that as you notice the man in the wheelchair sort of straightens his back just a bit, as if he's about to speak? How does the situation play out for you?
Man, I'm just really enjoying whatever this goo shit is, so I really don't care anymore. I do think at this point of being this intoxicated, I should probably pull off some sort of a see through the illusion thing. Is that something I can do?
Yes, you can.
Because I'm pretty sure that's directly what I do.
Yeah, I know it is. Go for it.
All right, let's see. I say that confidently, like I'm going to roll above a 2, but
I hope so. I have a couple of cool cinematic endings, but you've not hit one with a roll yet. Oh.
I die immediately. Is that what that number is?
No.
That was the one bad roll, Steve.
So you're watching what's being said, and in your head, there's this incredible euphoria and very physical sensation. It's like she's touching you, she's back, and you're feeling that again. And in this moment, you're not even standing there in your body. You have your arms around her, and she's naked, and it's just warm, and it's a good place. And then she puts her fingers over your mouth because you're about to say something romantic, and she says, "Kill the priest now." And then in smoke. What do you do, Randall?
I turn and I wheel on the priest.
Hold that
Not
thought.
this priest, the other priest.
Hold that thought. So, Frank, there's some weird vision happening with Tom,
Yeah, he's high as shit. He's okay. Yeah. He's not going to hurt himself sitting there going gaga.
It's like everything slows down for him in the moments that I described. Take the time it will take. When the man in the wheelchair says, with an obvious injury to his mouth, now that you're getting closer, it's like his face is burned from chemicals of some kind, and he says, as an 80s villain would, "Keys, Mr. Quinn. Keys protect our houses. You know that. Your early career was investigating robberies that occurred when someone forgot to use their keys. Some other keys, Mr. Quinn, some other keys start our cars, generators, and some must be turned together to achieve the result that one wills. Some keys, Mr. Quinn, are very important," he says. "Some do not even appear to be keys. You suffered such a great loss because of your lack of respect for another man's keys. But no worry. I retrieved it, and I've put it to wonderful use. And my friends will now show you the door. and these crooked men start to turn his wheelchair. In this moment, how does our action movie go, Mr. Quinn?
Frank, in this channeling of this inner cop, had no fucking idea what to expect. And that was not what he was expecting. And so he takes in this very Bond villain-esque monologue. And his mind is racing, right? What's the key? How did I not respect the keys? And as he's going through all of these different scenarios of what the hell this batshit crazy man means, he knows.
What was it, Frank? What was the key?
The figurine.
And you brought it home. You brought it home. Frank.
I did.
You killed them. Frank. What do you do?
Frank's entire strength and resolve that he's gathered in order to channel his inner cop is dissolved. And as this man turns around and commands Frank, which never happens, to follow him, he does. He does. Like a young boy who's told to go to his room. He knows that he's about to be punished and that he deserves it.
Randall. Frank steps away and you hear some echoing words, and like in slow motion you turn, and everything from your past and everything that's haunted you comes out of your arm. For the first time, you roll 2 10s and you blast the priest in the face. Constantine slowly falling backwards, spray going back and into these masses.
How high am I?
Then your worst fears are recognized. You feel her hand on your arm. She turns you toward her. And you OD.
Womp, womp, womp.
The sting of sterile white light causes your eyes to burn. It reflects on white, on white, on white. The details are blurry at first. And you're forced to blink away these tears. These tears, there's layers of them. There's tears of rage, and there's tears of doubt, and there's tears of sadness, and all of that. But they're all blink and blink and blink. And then, Father Bianche, a man's voice calls. The blur clears enough so that you can see a form in a tailored suit, shorter than the other one, like sitting real low. Photo badge, maybe. God bless you, Doctor. You hear in a very familiar voice, very less troubled, but familiar. I'm afraid this one's lost. A darker figure off to the left says, and you still can't even tell what's going on around you, and the same man, the same low man says, Mr. Michelson, let's begin. He turns to a cart, on top of which there's this instruments and wires and gauges and beeps, and a pair of very familiar eyes lean in. They just lean in out of nowhere, clear, not blurry, clear, not the face of necessarily, not the bone structure, right, but the core face and these careworn eyes. They're kind, but they're marked with scars from a past that they're trying to run from. The hunger in there somewhere. Yes, Dr. Pierson, says Randall, as he slips the needle into your veins, Mr. Quinn.
I'm
like
going.
roll credits, or like I don't even know what to do right now.
I know I want to cry. What do you think? Was that fucked? Did it end in a fucked up way?
Yeah, hella fucked up.
Okay, good.
Yeah, in a good way.
The one thing I needed was for Randall. Shit, I left one bit of narrative out. Oh well, never mind. It's fine. Who feels empty and lost because you didn't kill the dragon? Raise your hand. You feel good about what we did here? Was it fun?
Yes.
It was absolutely fun.
Who's gonna run the next one? Frank Quinn. I'm calling Mr. Estes out. Is gonna run our next cult, and I want to play.
Yeah, I am down.
That was. Okay, so we do the after talk thing, CJ. I know I killed you, and that wasn't vengeful, but tell me about how that ended for you.
I'm still confused. I didn't know I was dead.
It's because you're on your way to heaven. That's why. If you go back and watch the episodes leading up to this moment, in particular, so Frank Quinn, this has been a story from the beginning in my mind about Frank Quinn and what happened to his wife. And there's sort of layers to that, obviously, right? Yeah, technically Steve killed him, says Mr. Shadowcast.
Yeah.
The idea was that early on, if you remember the background with Frank, he had a lead on a place that was manufacturing drugs of some kind of strange drug. So that's the green shit. And the dude in the wheelchair obviously had sort of ties to the occult in a big way, which you'll never know in this whole situation. Frank found a murder victim. The person had taken this key from him, which he used to control this thing. It's really bad if you can get your occult on and suddenly you can't. That sucks. So you get mad. So you know what happens to 80s people when they steal shit from people? Their whole family gets killed. Frank gets blamed, winds up being homeless, meets Randall. The trouble is that Mike's biggest fear when we talked in our session was being crazy. So Frank Quinn killed his family. And this is what he does when he's trying to process the guilt of what he did with that hatchet. Because he was a stressed out cop. Couldn't take it anymore.
Damn, Frank.
Says Randall. So
Frank.
How do you guys feel? So let's go around the horn and talk. I mean, how do we do in the post fix? Like, what's the wrap up look like?
Did you just fucking identity me? You just identitied me, right? Like I was John Cusack the whole time? This is... I need a minute.
So we get some thumbs up. All right. Yes.
No,
that's
that
awesome.
was good, man.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
So you guys did just the cinematics for me, as I've obviously been COVID for a long time or whatever. Just the cinematics. I'll go back and listen to those to take notes and think where I'm going next. And you guys are just fantastic. So Steve, I keep calling you Randall. Randall, what do you do? Well, did you have fun with this? Yeah, it is. What's up, brother? First role-playing game wins an Oscar or whatever.
Oh, did I? Because I felt like I was struggling here pretty hard.
Shadowcast says, "Damn, Frank." Everybody's saying, "Damn, damn, damn."
Yeah, well, Frank. Oh, fuck.
I thought we were all living inside of Jason's mind, but evidently.
Yeah.
Frank's.
The whole time?
What I was thinking about this today, right? Of just the realization that Frank would have, and I don't know that I got it entirely, but when he looked at Constantine, for example, and realized he's not broke, he's not dirty and broke, he's okay, he's just here. Why is he here? I don't understand. Frankception, says Shadowcast. That's awesome.
Frankception.
Are you getting work phone calls, or are you just having some weird cat shit going on behind you there, Mr.
Me?
Who's the cat noise? Where's that coming from?
Oh, that's my cat. So my wife has been giving her like catnip, and she's going batshit crazy. She's just sitting back there meowing her head off, and I have no idea why.
That was like
She can play
ringtone
Randall
perfect.
next time.
Yeah, it was like a loop. It sounded exactly the same. I thought it was one of CJ's weird ass ringtones.
Nope, that's my cat.
Nice. So what do you think? So I think I picked up on your question or your comment before, Mike, about certain roles and why they're even necessary, because there's a level of like shit you're gonna see, and if you don't ask those questions, you're not being fed the information. So that's something that I would encourage you to read up on, because you're running the next one, man. You're doing it.
It's not gonna be easy to do.
Can I play Randall again?
Yeah, Randall Part 2.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll do another session 0, and we'll decide the campaign setting and plot. I think 83 Chicago is going to be off limits, but we can dance around it.
Yeah, right. Awesome. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen who tuned in and watched that, or people of the internet who happen to see it later, thank you for your support on the Cult side. Some of the comments, I mean, you guys should go back and read them if you haven't. There's some really good stuff that people have said about your performances, and it's just good stuff. It's good theater. So this was supposed to be a one-shot. It became a 12-shot. This was 12 episodes.
Love it.
Yeah. So we have been Myth Brigade, and we're going to be Myth Brigade in another form going forward. And Mike gets to run the campaign and design the overlay. And I'm going to get CJ a creepy filter, so he looks less like just his skin.
What the hell just happened?
Yeah,
What is
it's
that?
just, he's just skin. So let's do this. I'm going to